You're listening to Reignite, a podcast about not minding your own business. I'm MJ.
And I'm Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
Now that we know that the collectors are behind the human abductions, it's time to revisit some old friends and relive some old arguments. The Citadel has changed since Sovereign's attack. Shepard meets Captain Bailey, reunites with their space dad, and sticks their nose in everyone else's problems.
Yeah, this section of the game is really interesting for a lot of different reasons, both on a meta level and on a storyline level. For one, it seems like almost everyone that you knew before is not happy to see you, except for Anderson.
Yeah.
Like, literally, Space Dad's the only one who cares. And we'll get to more about that, but I suppose we should first dive in, as always, on our check-ins with our crew.
Do you ever feel like we should save check-ins for last, or are we happy with doing check-ins first?
I don't mind doing check-ins first. I mean, in the order of operations of how we play, that's what I do first. I check in before the next mission, so.
I guess. Okay. I was just curious about it. Okay, so Joker is trying so hard to be gentle with you when you approach him after Horizon. She's like, yeah, Ashley/Kaden, remember them? Okay.
Yeah, I in that conversation chose the Paragon. I guess what's considered the Paragon response, the bottom response, since the canonical link to what those actually mean is hazy at best. But I picked that one, and I literally essentially said something along the lines of, "I don't want to talk about it. It sucks." And he just went, "Okay." Like I got angrier than I wanted my Shepherd to get, but I was a little not happy about it.
Yeah, I think I went the same way. Because I'm not happy about it. Like, despite the fact that their feelings are valid, like, my feelings are valid too, and I'm allowed to not be happy.
Yeah, I was a little raw after the exchange, and then, and then I did the usual with the Joker check-in and ask about, how
are things in the cockpit?
Yeah, and he, I forget which exchange this one was. Oh, it was about, flashing her memory core or whatever.
Yeah, Edie's starting to push back against Joker. She's, actively trying to get a rise out of him.
And says that his responses are not the typical response, and he's not happy that someone's giving him a hard time for a change. He's starting to take it quite personally, and I just think my response is essentially along the lines of, "Oh, so you don't like it when someone gives you a taste of your own medicine?" I pretty much gave him shit as well.
LOL. It's not fun when someone does it to you, is it?
Yeah. And then I asked him about the team I went out with, and he tried to delicately express his feelings about Grunt was the new team member that I brought out, essentially saying that he is not a stabilizing element, which he's not wrong, but I still like Grunt, so
yeah. Let's see. Kelly doesn't really have much of an update, but she offers you a chance to define how you viewed the Horizon run-in.
Yeah.
I said that I missed Ash.
Yeah, I'd said the same thing. I said I really missed him. And so, yeah, and she's just, she's trying to be supportive, but isn't quite sure how to engage with this because, it's a big deal.
And she also lets us know that 2 of our colleagues would like to speak to us.
Which, in the meta, I know what it's for. It's for to start getting the loyalty missions. But in the framework of the game, it's almost the same as going, that relationship talk trigger word. Like, it felt like that. It's like, they would like to speak with you. And I'm like, oh, shit, what happened? Am I in trouble?
Am I in trouble? With Jacob, we get the introduction and setup of his loyalty mission.
Yep.
The Hugo Gernsback went missing 10 years ago, but now it's sending an SOS. Jacob is looking for closure regarding his father, and I'm all for closure.
Same. And Jacob makes it pretty clear that he says he buried everything but a body. So, as far as he's concerned, his father is dead, and he has no desire to find, he's not looking for a resolution as far as he wants to feel better about his dad. He just kind of wants it to be over and to have that last little bit of closure, because as far as he's concerned, it is over. And it's probably the most vulnerable we see Jacob to date at this point.
Mm-hmm.
which is
We won't
interesting.
be doing. I'm sorry. We won't be doing Jacob's loyalty mission for a bit.
Yeah.
But when we do, we'll have Chuck Collins, artist of Bounce Comics, to discuss it with us.
Yep. Who was very eager to jump on that mission and discuss that one, which was pretty great because I wanted to have somebody besides the two of us to talk about that mission with, as it'll resonate more with someone who might relate more to Jacob as a character.
Okay, let's see. Nothing from Garrus, so let's head over to Miranda, who says that she is in the unpleasant position of asking for help, which is the most Miranda thing that she could possibly say.
Yeah, it's my continued strong dislike, I'll put it kindly, of her is not helped by this, but I also understand, as I am not super eager to ask for her help in any situation really either. So it's at least for the way I play my shepherd, a mutual feeling. So understandable. But yeah, we get her loyalty mission as well. She talks about how one of the main reasons she sided with Cerberus, besides for her own safety, is for her sister's safety, who's been hiding her in a new life on a new planet from her father. And she's afraid her father has figured out where her sister is and wants help to confirm that her cover isn't blown. And if it is, move her to a new planet quietly so her father won't get her.
The daddy issues are rolling in.
Yeah, pretty much. For both characters, actually, yeah. And so, my shepherd, of course, is willing to agree and with little complaint, because when it comes to helping innocents, my shepherd at least doesn't think twice. And regardless of my feelings of Miranda, it sounds like her sister is leading a normal life as a civilian somewhere, and anything I can do to help continue that, I would do willingly.
Yeah. My only note for Jack is that she is definitely a chaotic bisexual.
Yes. She makes it very clear and casually that, and she's also polyamorous, it sounds like, as well. She doesn't really care much for actual relationships, so I guess polyamory is questionable, because if it's not a relationship, it's hard to really...
As a polyamorous person, I wouldn't say that I wouldn't class her as poly. If anything, I might class her as solo poly, which is someone who engages in other polyamorous relationships but does not have relationships, couple relationships of their own.
Right.
There are a lot of weird poly dynamics, and that could be an entire other podcast that I would host with my friend Ian. So,
yeah,
Ian, I had an idea.
I think that it's clear here, though, that Jack doesn't really value relationships very much because she doesn't trust, and so sex to her is a casual thing you do to get off, and not something that you engage in more closely. My shepherd at this point is trying to get to know her better. I'm actually very happy that in the engagement here, when you try and get to know Jack better, you don't flirt with her. You just engage with her and show that you want to get to know her better and want to be friends with her. And at the end of that conversation, it's the first time she goes, maybe we'll talk later, with kind of like a positive tone in her voice. And then she goes, or maybe not. So you're starting to break down the walls a tiny bit here if you're engaging. There is a moment during this conversation, though, where you can say that you just want sex, and I believe you get it, but in the meta sense, shuts down any chance of pursuing any kind of real friendship with Jack beyond that. Which I know people have engaged before.
Yeah, I think, the concept of true romance doesn't become available to you with Jack until after her loyalty mission, because that's when you prove that you have her back.
Yeah.
So
but it is interesting, because with all the characters in the game, there isn't really a casual sex option in this game, but with Jack you can take it. But I don't love the idea that because you do that, it ruins your chance at a relationship with Jack. I get why they do it. It's because Jack doesn't trust, and if you have sex with Jack at this point, then Jack doesn't need you for anything. And that's more on her side, which makes sense, but it does frame casual sex in a pretty terrible light on the whole, which I don't love.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, guess where my marriage started? Yeah. But Jack is a very emotionally like unstable person because she hasn't had any sense of stability or strong friendships or relationships. So for her, approaching casual sex at this point wouldn't be not advisable. It would be a detriment to the relationship that you're building. Like, she is not the person that you can have casual sex with and still be friends afterwards.
Yeah.
So there are people where you can, but unfortunately Jack isn't one of them.
Right.
Let's move over to Grunt, who is truly your son.
Yeah, I forgot that this conversation starts this way, but you essentially walk into him having a conversation with himself about the structural weakness and the structural integrity of the ship, and how if he were a commanding warlord, how he would take the ship out in one fell swoop, which is like, okay, I mean, I guess if you need a hobby, that's a good one, maybe.
I was more referring to when he was talking about Turians, and he was like, I never saw much point. Much point.
Oh, God. I forgot about that.
Yeah, your son.
Look, you know what?
I also appreciate that Grunt is seriously experiencing imposter syndrome. Like, I'm strong because I was made that way, but not because I earned that strength. Like, I did not make myself strong. Someone else made me strong, and that feels wrong. And I need to find, like, something that makes me feel strong.
Yeah, it's interesting to see a character as powerful as Grunt is, and essentially he's the peak of physical condition for Krogan. He was designed that way. And so it's interesting to see someone with that kind of strength still struggle to know who they are. I mean, you think about heroes in other mythos that are the peak of human condition, your Batmans, like a lot of them have a tragic thing that happens in their personal life that pushes them to that point, gives them a reason to become that strong and work that hard. But Grunt doesn't have that. Grunt, it just is, and doesn't quite know what to do with it.
Yeah, he's struggling to find a connection.
And as a player, as a caring character, I want to give him that, but also he is not particularly welcoming of you, even though he sort of respects you at this point. Yeah. He's still got a lot of walls up.
Can we talk about real quick the request from Admiral Hackett?
Yes, which I forgot we get. This is the first time we see Admiral Hackett. He has a character design. In the first game, he was the same voice, but there were no vids with him. This is the first time you actually get to see Admiral Hackett.
Yeah, he tells Shepard about an operative who's doing deep cover in Batarian space, and she was captured, and it would be a great favor if you could go in alone to get her back. And I wanted to say, go fuck yourself now.
Yeah. Like, the game unfortunately treats this moment as if you've, like, spoken to Admiral Hackett already, and you haven't. He's calling you out of the dead of night. I think you'd had maybe an email with him before this, but, like, saying that he's glad you're alive, and, like, he still supports you, which is great. But, like, he's reaching out on behalf of the Alliance, who rather you be dead, even though you're not. You know, like, the Alliance wants nothing to do with you. You could, at this point, have gone to the Citadel already. So, in theory, the Citadel doesn't want anything to do with you. So, like, for Admiral Hackett to just reach out and be like, hey, by the way, can you do me this favor, even though you've been dead for 2 years and we don't really speak anymore, is a little, he has a lot of balls.
This feels just as manipulative as the elusive man. Oh, hey, I won't back you openly, but if you save my friend, there's proof of the thing that you kept warning us about that no one believes you about. Like, no, I'm angry about this. Like, you just want me to save your friend. You don't actually care about, like, my mission or the fact that I was dead for 2 years and someone else had to bring me back to life and people are dying and nobody is doing anything about it.
Yeah, and what's really hard for me here is that I like Admiral Hackett, and, like, on a meta sense, I know all that he does for you over the course of this and the next game, and, like, he is a true ally in that sense. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that, but it is hurtful here that there's just an assumption that you'll do the work, because at the end of the day, you're a good soldier boy and you're going to do what you got to do. And it's kind of disappointing.
I told him I'm on an important mission, so if I have time.
Yeah, I think I was receptive just because in my heart I know how much Hackett means to the Alliance and the good working relationship we had. I probably wasn't as pissed as I should have been, but in hindsight, definitely I was miffed for sure.
I just felt so like my mission comes first. Then maybe I will see about your scientist who definitely shouldn't be in Batarian space. What are you doing?
Yeah, it's like, also, if we've learned anything at this point, it's that the Alliance can't get anything done unless I'm the commander.
They're all a bunch of failures. Anyway, let's talk about the Citadel now.
Yeah, so the first thing I want to say about the Citadel is that I am really disappointed with the redesign. Now, I get that it's under construction because there was a ton of damage to the Citadel, and so you're restricted to areas that are easy to move through. And even in the first game, you couldn't really go to civilian areas. Like, you were in the industrial areas or the areas related to what you needed to do, the public areas, I guess we'll call them. But you could still, like, look across the promenade and see the residential areas. Like, you could get a sense of the space. But in this version, it feels very tiny.
Yeah, it feels so much smaller and confined because you only get Zakara Ward and you don't even get to explore the Presidium. You can only go to see Captain Anderson.
Yeah. And like, you can't even see the embassies. Like, it's so confining. It's really a bummer.
And I guess that's mostly because the nature of Mass Effect 2 is to get you away from the Citadel and to show you other, like, places to explore, such as Ilium and Omega. But it feels so much smaller than in Game 1, and it's just claustrophobic.
Yeah, I'm really disappointed with it. And, like, running around it, I had forgotten how small it was until I was actually engaging in it.
When we first get onto Citadel, we hear an advertisement calling out to us.
Yeah, so this is really cool. So this is how you recruit Kasumi, who is a master thief, and essentially you recruit her in a similar way to that you recruit Zaid. The elusive man, without your knowledge, reached out to this person and told them to contact you, and then they do. But that said, I do really enjoy Kasumi. Something that's really interesting about Kasumi is Kasumi's actually voiced by Jennifer Hale, which is...
That must have been confusing.
Yeah, well, I mean, what I like about this voice is that Kasumi doesn't sound... Like, Jennifer Hale, for a lot of her voice acting, uses her own voice because she's got a very powerful and commanding voice. But the fact that she's created a voice for this character is really cool, and there's never a moment where you're like, oh, this is the same person. If you really listen, you can probably hear it, but otherwise, it's pretty easy to hear that these are different characters.
She had some really choice quotes as she's waiting for you to approach the advertisement display. And I wrote all of them down because I loved them so much. Got problems with collectors? Try Kasumi's credit services. We have the finest companions waiting for you. Perhaps something smart, petite, and Japanese is your style. Okay, really? How many times can you walk by without stopping? Shepard, you do have the password, right? She's very funny. She's very lighthearted. And she's also, like, the best at what she does. And she makes a point of telling you, the reason why I'm the best is because nobody knows who I am. And that's the way I want to keep it.
Yeah. And also, like Zaid, during the conversation to bring her onto the ship, she also tells you, by the way, the elusive man promised me you'd help me with a thing. And you're like, oh, great. Well, what is it? And so you find out that you have to find her old strongbox that her partner had, and that you'll get more details later. And then she closes the advertisement and says, we should move along because it does look silly with you talking to an advertisement, which I appreciated. I like Kasumi a lot too. I think she's a really interesting character. I do wish, though, like Zaid, that she was more fleshed out. But unfortunately, because she was a late addition, they didn't develop her interactive parts in a way like the main crew members. So you just can do the same kind of chatting in a room with her like you can do with Zaid, which is a bit of a bummer. But still, she's a great character to have.
Yeah, I wish that we spent more time with her, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Are you sure it's Jennifer Hale?
That's according to IMDb, it is.
No, it's Kim Hoy.
Is it?
It's Kim Hoy. Jennifer Hale played a random person at the party.
Oh, with the same name? That's so weird.
No, not with the same name. If you look at Jennifer, I was looking this up because I was like, that sounds wrong. It says party guest dash Kasumi Stolen Memory DLC.
Oh, well, that's
so it's
my
telling
bad.
you where the party guest was. Yeah, no, it's Kim Hoy.
Oh, all right. Well, apologies, Kim Hoy. But now you've gotten your proper credit, like you needed it from us anyway. That was my bad. Well, that's fair. You know me. I'm not opposed to you correcting me on the podcast. It wouldn't be the first time.
It won't be the last.
That's also true.
Okay. So we talked about the new design. Let's talk about Captain Bailey.
So Captain Bailey is actually played by Michael Hogan, who is a well-known voice actor, especially in the RPG space. He's done a ton of the Fallout games as well and played major characters in that. Captain Bailey is a character who I absolutely adore from more or less the moment you interact with him. What's great about him is, unlike the CSEC officers in the first game, who were just kind of part of the bureaucratic machine, didn't really want to give you a break, it's clear that Captain Bailey, A, respects you immediately and has heard the stories, and B, knows the best way to curate a relationship quickly.
So I used to also feel this way about Bailey, but walking in on him advocating for the abuse of a suspect had me being like, no.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
very uncomfortable.
I mean, that's fair to feel uncomfortable in that moment, but he also, like, you can call him out on it.
But not really. Like, not in a way where it's like, hey, that's wrong, don't do that. And, like, he doesn't, but he justifies it. And
yeah,
kind of...
I have trouble looking at this in black and white just because the CSEC is different than other areas.
Sorry, don't agree. He says policing this ward is like policing New York City. That's not a good thing. Like, I have so many feelings and so much rage, flames on the side of my face. I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at the way that this world is broken and how this mirrors that breakage.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, I guess I wasn't as enraged because it's just we have so little power in the Citadel at this point that I cared more about getting in and out than fighting this guy on this thing. And also, I feel like knowing the meta of his story, that he comes around on this and that this doesn't stay his preferred process forever.
I don't think that's true.
But well, I guess we'll visit it when we get to the third game. Yeah. But I feel like there is... I feel like this is broached again at some point.
Anyway, I'm suspicious of Bailey, and I don't respect him the way I used to. That's the long and short of it.
I don't agree, but that's fine. We don't have to agree.
Yeah, I kind of jumped over something, and I didn't mean to. There are two conversations that happen before you even approach Bailey that are of interest. There's a gunnery chief talking to a couple of recruits outside of the Zakara ward entrance, and the best quote was that Sir Isaac Newton is the deadliest son of a bitch in space. Because they're talking about how you can't just eyeball it and you have to trust the computer because otherwise projectiles are just going to go forever until they hit someone in 100,000 years.
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty funny line. It's pretty easy to overlook that and not listen. There's a lot of reward for listening to the random conversations that happen, as we'll discuss as we talk about the side mission, the finger quotes side missions on Citadel. But like overhearing people can be really rewarding in Mass Effect 2.
Yeah, I really appreciated the respect that he was trying to teach them for their weapons. It's not a game. Like, guns are dangerous weapons. You cannot just play with them.
Right.
So I appreciated that. And also, the security was very reminiscent of all the horror stories you hear about TSA and how they abuse their power. We witness a security check person trying to take someone's biotic amp because it could be classed as a weapon.
I missed that.
She's the front desk lady.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Okay, now I remember.
And someone was like, I'm not a biotic. And she's like, oh, you got upset, so I thought you were a biotic. And then she was called racist. I was like, I'm not sure if that's necessarily the case, but it's definitely wrong for you to try and take someone's biotic amp.
Yeah. The interaction is stilted and odd, which I imagine in a real life situation would be. But it is an interesting thing to hear, especially considering knowing how biotics have been treated throughout the galaxy based on just our relationship with Caden in the first game.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you're being unfair and stupid, and I don't like it.
I do appreciate when you walk into CSEC also and you get scanned. The guy at the counter freaks out and you're like, "What's the problem?" It's like, "Well, according to the computer, you're dead."
Well, I was.
Yeah, which is a funny interaction. I did think that the interaction with Bailey, where he gives you the rigmarole about what the red tape would be to get yourself reinstated and then offers to press a button and make it go away, does seem more suspicious upon a more analytical playthrough. Like, me and my shepherd were both like, sure, I'd love for you to do that, but why would you do that?
Yeah. I let him reinstate me.
Same.
Though I thought about leaving myself as dead, but then I thought that it might create more problems, so I'm like, yeah, it's not worth that. Did you talk to Avina?
No, I ignored Avina. I'm not a fan of Avina.
It's been 2 years, 3 months, and 17 days since we were last at the Citadel.
Yeah.
Since we died.
Yeah, Avina in the first game was obnoxious and unhelpful, so as an experienced player at least, so seeing her in the second game I was like, nope, don't want to talk to you.
No thank you.
Goodbye.
Did you see that our girl Emily Wong is on the Citadel Newsnet?
I did. I wanted to interact, and when you go back to your ship afterwards, you'll have an email from her like, why didn't you reach out to me?
I would have if I could have. The game didn't allow me to.
Exactly.
You think I want to talk to Khaleesi Al-Jalani? I'd rather talk to you.
We're not there yet. But yeah, it's fun to see her like having gotten a bigger stake in the news industry, especially considering that was your goal in talking to her and helping her in the first game.
Let's see, and then we could do lots of shopping. I bought pretty much everything except for one thing because I ran out of credits.
Yeah, I stupidly wasn't paying attention to how many credits I had, and so like I bought one of the big upgrades and then couldn't afford the other one I wanted. I did get all of the fish, my space hamster, and all of the models.
Yes, me too. What are you going to name your space hamster?
I have no clue. I haven't gotten that far. I haven't been back to my cabin yet because I ended it when we got back on the ship.
You don't really, get to name your space hamster in the game mechanics. I'm just curious.
Oh. I hadn't thought about it. It was just space hamster.
Hey, if you guys want to name our space hamsters.
Sure, why not? Let's open it up to the listeners. Name both mine and MJ's space hamsters. And
if we get multiple options, we'll put it to a vote.
Exactly. But if we get one option for each, then we'll just go with those.
Yeah.
I do have to remember to feed my fish. I remember the first time I played through Mass Effect 2, I would not go back to my cabin between missions, and then I went back to my cabin 4 missions later, and they were all floating at the top of the tank, and I was like, bummed out. Although, when that happens, you can go back to the Citadel and buy more.
Yeah, I think because of the way that we're playing currently, we can avoid the fish death.
I think so too. While shopping, though, there's a ton of stuff that you can do. And, of course, you can do everyone's favorite thing and a quotable line from Mass Effect 2, which is give your endorsement for if you do the Paragon route, you can give your endorsement for the shops. And then when you walk in and out of the shops, your endorsement plays over the loudspeaker, which is not weird at all.
For 4 different stores all throughout Zakara Ward. Just one word, not even the entire Citadel.
Yeah. And of course, as anyone who listened through all the way through to our last episode, we have a similar endorsement from the lovely Mark Meir about our very own podcast. But I
wonder how many podcasts he endorses.
I know, right? Since he's on Cameo. I mean, he at least endorsed our Brothers in Arms, the Normandy FM podcast, because I heard theirs as well. But I do think it's very funny that, like, every meme or, like, every time that Jennifer Hale or Mark Meir is doing any kind of promo or promotion, it's always, I'm Commander Shepard, and blank is my favorite thing on the Citadel. And I think that being the quote that lived on from these games is hilarious to me.
Yeah. That and I should go.
Yes.
Okay, so anything else about shopping?
Not that I can recall. The oddities for shopping, as we said, were pets this time around. No dirty alien magazines in this location.
Nope.
I am making notes for myself, though, to go back to places to buy the upgrades that I didn't get before, just so I make sure I have them, because I often forget where I have and haven't shopped.
Yeah. So we get to speak to Kalisa Al-Jalani, which, if you don't remember, she tried to bull rush us in Mass Effect 1 and make it sound like we were throwing humanity under the bus in favor for council races.
Yeah. And you, as a Paragon, which I assume is how we both handled it, can kind of just give her the facts again. Lay it out on the line.
Honestly, I felt like the Paragon route was way more brutal than the Renegade route, because you basically shove it into her face that you will never forget all the people that gave their lives, and you, like, remind her who they are, and you say, I'll never forget who they are. Will you?
Yeah.
Like...
And I'd forgotten that Shepard did that had that impressive moment of, like, just listing every single ship, talking about the exact numbers of all of the different alien races that died, including humans. It was one of those, I've done my homework, lousy reporter, have you done yours?
Yeah. Kalisa Al-Jalani was not pleased.
No, yeah, as you walk away, she's like, great, bull rushed on my own show. And I'm like, well, that's what it's like.
Some other key landmarks on Zakara is the Citadel GameStop.
Yes, where the Solarian behind the counter is making gags that are related to games that were popular at the time, like the Final Fantasy MMORPG and Call of Duty and those kinds of things, which I thought was very clever.
Do you have any games to trade in? You get 2 credits on your new game.
Which also, the piss poor amount of credits you get for trading in is also a direct jab at GameStop, which I appreciate as well.
I thought you would. Matt used to work at GameStop.
I did. It was a dark time in my life.
Let's see. The advertisements all throughout the Citadel were completely dragging me. One was like, you haven't had a job in 2 years. Thank you. Thank you for telling me that. It's not like I have a whole mission to save the universe or anything. I'll get right on the employment line.
Yeah, it's a little creepy, the ads in the future, and we're not really that far from this, considering the banner ads on Facebook will mimic your exact browsing history of Amazon. But, like, for an ad to pop up and say, you've been dead for 2 years, you definitely could use this hygiene product. It's like, really? Really?
Yeah, that's very uncomfortable.
Like, which is why I think the Kasumi ad thing is kind of funny, because considering how personal the ads are on the Citadel, for Kasumi's ad to be that personal is not that strange, because all of the ads are apparently like that and stalk you throughout the Citadel.
Let's see. Before we talk about the Volus Quarian incident, when you stop in one of the stores, you see a couple of familiar faces. Michael and Rebecca are co-parenting. They appeared in Mass Effect 1. There was an argument where I think Michael wanted Rebecca to take some really radical and progressive procedure to make sure that the baby didn't have some kind of illness that the father died from, but Rebecca was uncomfortable because it was just as unsafe as just letting the baby be born as is, and it's a whole thing. The baby was born, the baby's fine, and now they're just like worried about him all the time. It's very adorable.
Yeah. Something that was cool that we get to see when we get to the Presidium is you get to see a Elcor in motion, which was pretty cool because most of the Elcors in the game are like standing still. And like to watch them lumbering down a path is pretty neat, how their body moves and stuff. Sorry, it was just a nerdy graphics thing that I wanted to mention.
Let's see. So let's talk about the Volus Quarian incident.
Real quick before that, going back to the overhearing conversations, my favorite finger quotes mission on the Citadel is you can overhear two Krogan.
Oh, the fish thing.
Talking about if there are fish in the lakes on the Presidium. Which you overhear, you don't talk to them, and then you can go to the dance club, Dark Star, and talk to the groundskeeper, who's a Turian, and whose name is the groundskeeper, and ask about the fish, which he says, no, there aren't any, and then tries to tell you about like some of the botanical stuff, and you can just be like, whatever. And then you go tell these Krogan that there are no fish, and they get upset that it's a waste of water if there is no food stored in it. But one of the Krogan does thank you because the other Krogan would not shut up about the fish on the Presidium, and it kind of puts it to rest. And you get 1,000 credits for it. And I'm like, who paid me?
Yeah, I was surprised.
Like,
why did you give me 1,000 credits?
Where does the money come from? Did the other Krogan pay me for shutting his friend up? Like, I don't understand.
I think that is what happened. Alternately, you could give him one of the fish you bought.
Yes, and lie and say that there are fish on the Presidium. Here's one, which is a renegade action, which I think is kind of funny, but also...
I think it's mean.
It is definitely mean also. I mean, it's mean in the same way messing with a guy who's not going to bleed out, telling him he is going to bleed out mean. Like, it's not that far afield from that kind of a thing.
So I think it's meaner because, like, he's just, like, this innocent guy who'll believe anything, whereas the guy who's bleeding, you're just like, I'm sparing your life right now.
Yeah, I guess
while
so.
also poking fun at you.
Yeah.
Like, this Krogan didn't do anything to anyone. He's just curious about fish.
Yeah, and like those are the kinds of missions that are on the Citadel. Like, there's no fighting on the Citadel, at least currently, and you mostly just overhear things or talk to people and then talk to other people, which was sort of the case in the first game. But like, there were still some combat missions and some big major story points on the Citadel. The Citadel's kind of an afterthought in this game, which is a bummer.
Yeah, in our first game we had like the consort Shaira. We had stuff at Cora's Den. We had some Citadel conversations.
The clinic.
CSEC. That's what I meant to say. We had some CSEC missions. We had, like, there was a lot more to do. The Citadel was much more of a character in Game 1. Now it's, like, even less than a setting.
Yeah, and, like, you get emails on your ship from people you can't even visit, like Michelle in the clinic and the consort, and, like, there's no way to interact with them in this game, and it's kind of a bummer because they were important characters in the first game.
I appreciated the email from Shaira, though, because it was, like, reminding you, hey, don't neglect your loyalty missions.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Basically what it was. All right, can we talk about the Volus and the Quarian now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Fuck both the Volus and the CSEC guy.
Oh, yeah.
So mad.
So what happens here, for those who don't remember or who want a quick summary anyway, a Volus is accusing a Quarian of stealing his credit chit, and the CSEC officer, in the most monotone, bored voice ever, is barely managing the situation. So, of course, Shepard, as the do-gooder, butts in, takes the story from both parties, and then finds out that, much to our suspicion already, the Voilus is overreacting because he actually left his credit chit at one of the stores that you then can go tell him is there. And after you do that, the Volus is like, oh, well, she could have stolen it.
Yeah, so before you leave the conversation initially, the CSEC officer says to you, you know what Quarians are like.
Oh,
no,
right,
what are they like? Tell me. Tell me what they're like so I can call you out on it. Tell me more. And the Volus is also... I hate the Volus term for Quarians, which is clanless, because your clan is your planet.
So, and they don't have a planet, yeah.
Right, the Volus are from a planet called Vol. Humans are from Earth, etc., etc., etc. So Turians would be Palavin clan, and Krogan would be Tachanka clan.
Yeah.
So because the Quarians lost Rannoch, they're no longer Rannoch clan, they're clanless, which is a derogatory term, in my opinion.
I would agree. I mean, also, Volus, in my experience with them through the majority of the game, are not the kindest people. There are kind Volus who we've interacted with, but for the most part, a lot of them are irritable and not kind to aliens.
Yeah. So yeah, you find out where the credit chit was left, and you let them know, and the response from both parties towards the Quarian is like, she could have stolen it. Hey, stay out of trouble or I'll have to lock you up for vagrancy. Like, you are further, like, criminalizing this young woman who was a victim, essentially, of being verbally assaulted.
Yeah, and so I took the renegade action and I stepped in and, like, grabbed this. I, first of all, got down on one knee and pretty much shook the Volus and said, the best thing you can say after you find out it's not her fault is that she still could have done it. What's wrong with you? And then you grab the CSEC officer by the collar and pretty much like, what is wrong with you? She did nothing wrong and you're still threatening to arrest her. And then he, of course, threatens to arrest you. And you go, yeah, I'd like to see you try and arrest a Spectre. Especially at this point if you've got your Spectre status reinstated. And like he just goes, oh, whatever, and walks away. The Quarian does thank you. She's very grateful, and you apologize, but she still seems pretty down because this is commonly how she's been treated on the Citadel.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was a renegade trigger. I feel. Like
was it a Paragon trigger?
I feel like it might have been a Paragon trigger, but it was a trigger quick time event.
Right.
I did the same thing, and then my response was not, "Are you okay?" It was, "What the hell was that guy's problem?" So I just had this moment of, like, rage. I was so angry on her behalf.
Yeah. And rightfully so, because this was unfair. Like, there's no gray area here. She was mistreated.
And this is bullshit that is continually happening in our real world today society.
Yeah. I think from here we should chat a little bit about the council meeting, which is the reason we're here.
Oh, yeah.
Anderson emails you saying, hey, I'd love for you to meet with the council. I really think that, well, for me anyway, he's still Captain Anderson. And so he's like, yeah, I really think you should come meet with the council since you're still alive. I would love to try and clear some stuff up. And so you go. Your Anderson is on the council, though, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so mine is not. Mine, President Dickhead is on the council instead.
So did you get reinstated as a Spectre?
I did.
Okay, I did too. I really wanted to tell them to fuck off, but I decided to play the long game.
Yeah.
Because I knew that if it was actually me in that situation, I wouldn't say what was on my mind. I'd be like, okay.
Yeah. The unfortunate truth here, though, is it's just a title at this point. Like, in the game mechanics, it doesn't affect anything other than, like, that conversation we just talked about and some other conversations, but it doesn't give you access to anything like it did in the first game, different weapons and stuff.
I think it does kind of help you on someone else's loyalty mission.
Yes, I think that, like, there's conversational moments that it helps, but that's really it. It's not the same thing as it was in the first game. Which they kind of allude to in the conversation you have with the council. What I hate is that the Turian council member, like, when you talk about the Reapers again, he talks down to you in this holier-than-thou tone. I wanted to reach through the projection and strangle him.
Oh, yeah. Because they don't believe you, and they have no reason to believe you. And, like, I have so much anger about all of it because you've risked your life time and time again. You risked other lives to save theirs. And instead of respecting you and your experiences, they just silence you. And I'm tired of it. I am so very tired of it. I want nothing to do with them. I was mean to Udina when he walked in, and I was just like, I'm done.
Yeah, no, I was the same. Now, Odina still walks in on you even if he's not the counselor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I thought so. But and what's pissing me off about this interaction with the council also is the Asari council member, at least in the past, was sort of on your side. Even if she didn't believe the claims as the rest of them, she would try and do the best thing for you and the group. And in this case, she throws you this title, but beyond that, she's more or less at the same level as the rest of them now, just in total disbelief. And
they're all garbage.
Yeah, it's incredibly frustrating. It's and what's more frustrating is on a meta level, I know it doesn't get better. We discussed this at the end of last season. It's why it's so hard to want to save them. But at the end of the day, playing true to my character would rescue them regardless of how they treat me. But it's frustrating. I think it's safe to say, though, on a meta level, if you get a new council, it still kind of goes the same way. Rescuing them is kind of irrelevant because the hard coding for this story point is the same. Which is truly disappointing that even a new council wouldn't see, based on the results of what happened to the old one, the light and what you should be doing, which is also very sad.
Afterwards, I took myself over to Darkstar again to get drunk because I was so angry.
Yeah, I don't drink, but I did go to the bartender, ask him if there's any news on the Citadel, and he's like, "You want news? Watch the news." Why do people keep asking me that? Especially
specifically humans.
Yeah.
Why do humans
which
keep
is a
asking
nice
me that?
jab at D&D RPG playing, I think, which is pretty funny.
Yeah. I got hella trashed. I had many, many different alcohols, including Rincall. I blacked out and woke up with Garrus and Kasumi over me in the bathroom of Darkstar. And a strange Turian man trying to pee at the urinal who's like, what is going on?
Oh, so you had, we didn't talk about our party, so you had Garrus and Kasumi with you. Did you swap to her as soon as you unlocked her?
Yes. I originally had Jack, but then I got Kasumi and I was like, I'm requesting a new squad mate.
We still have same squad mates, so I went to the Citadel with Grunt and Jack.
Okay. Well, I had Garrus and Kasumi.
But you did have Jack at first, so there's still that crossover. We still had a same party member.
You know what? Maybe I sensed it, which is why I changed to Kasumi. But yeah, and that's it for the Citadel.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's kind of a depressing experience. You can talk to Anderson a little more, see how he's been doing, try and get him to join your team and come with you, and he pretty much says he's too old for this shit. And he can do more good on the Citadel, which is sort of true. It remains to be seen how true that is. And then, again, you can interact with a few things here and there, but then it's time to go. The Citadel area is pretty quick. It's not very mission-based other than these tiny, short side missions that only net you 1,000 credits each and don't really do anything. You could skip those. I don't even think any of these missions on the Citadel affect the third game. I don't remember completely, but as far as I know, they don't. So they are kind of just pointless missions, which is a little depressing considering what the Citadel used to be.
Yeah. Let's move on because we got an email from one of our listeners, Nathan, who has emailed us in the past, and he had a couple of discussion points that he hoped that we would visit. I wanted to look at one of them in particular because the other one will be really good for when we do the Grunt loyalty mission, and I don't want to burn all that conversation on this episode. So I would like to read this out. I was wondering about your thoughts on female representation in all three games. Specifically, a lot of the way women in general are portrayed is very male-gazy, and I've noticed and been annoyed by this more and more over time. I find it really disappointing from a team that handles the writing of those characters really well. So, Nathan, spoiler alert, I have a lot of feelings about this. Thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah, same. For one, I do want to say that from what I recollect in the third game, it's not as bad as the first two, but for sure in the first two games, it's kind of rampant. Especially for me, the stuff that stands out the most in the second game is anything with Miranda. Every time there's a revolving conversation, the camera at some point goes behind Miranda and shows her ass, at least once per conversation. And it's distracting and annoying. Yes, the actress who plays this character is attractive. Yes, the character is designed to be attractive. It's even a talking point. Like, she looks as good as she does because of the genetic modification. But we don't have to we can see it. You don't need a shot of her ass to prove the point. And often when they do those shots, those camera angles, it has nothing to do with the conversation. It's not like maybe they were flirting or, they were anything like that. It's just a random shot of her ass for no reason.
Yeah. Some examples that Nathan sent us that are really important to look at. Let's see. I actually like Ashley wearing pink in Mass Effect 1 and 2 because it kind of subverts the expectation of the aggressive female. It shows a level of appreciation for femininity without, taking away her power. So I kind of like that she wears pink. But Tali and Liara are too young for Shepard. That is true. Tali is, 18, and she is a romance option for male Shep in Mass Effect 2. So maybe she's 20 now.
Yeah.
Liara is mentally, younger than Shepard. And less experienced, even though physically they're older. No female aliens at all in 1 and 2, except for the very highly sexualized Asari. The fact that the Asari are highly sexualized, period, and Quarians are somewhat sexualized, but not entirely. Let's see, Miranda was brought up. Jack's character design being completely topless.
Yeah, so the interesting thing about Jack with that, well, first of all, if you have the deluxe edition of Mass Effect 2, you can give Jack her alternate outfit, which is a tank top and a leather vest and cargo
bought
pants.
It because I wanted her to have a shirt.
Yeah, and she's wearing that in mine too. But something about Jack is I can imagine Jack not giving a shit about how she looks in any capacity. It's not her concern. Her concern is kicking ass and taking names. But that said, there is, and I brought this up when we talked about, other than to show off all her tattoos, there's no reason for this. She doesn't mention it. I know that when you talk about the tattoos, it scans her body to show the tattoos, which I don't consider male-gazy because it focuses on the pieces of art. But it does seem male-gazy that she is topless with no reason.
It was a deliberate choice made by a designer.
Right.
You can make the argument that she just doesn't care all you want. This was a design choice that was deliberately made. So, it's still bad, basically.
Right.
Let's see. These are kind of Mass Effect 3 spoilers, so I'm going to leave them alone. There's way more romances available for men. And there's, little to no queer romances available.
Yeah, it's not until the third game that we get any kind of even footing on that. And there are still plenty of them that are less developed than others. But there is a more balance of queer romances in the third game. But by then it's yes, better late than never. But still, you can't ignore the lack of them in the first two games, especially the first game.
It's just a wreck. And yeah, they are getting better. There were massive improvements in Andromeda and Mass Effect 3. There were some more improvements, but it's still not there yet. But we are improving over time, and hopefully with the announcements of Cyberpunk 2077, which is trying to be more trans inclusive, hopefully we will see more change.
Hopefully, but there's already been a notch against Cyberpunk 2077 with the advertisements of a feminine-looking woman with a visible penis in her pants as an ad in it. And, like, it was just very transphobic advertisement.
Yes.
And so,
which is also a problem.
I love that the character creation is allowing some equal opportunity, and so that does seem a step in the right direction. But it's like when you put that kind of stuff in the static parts of the game, it's like, do we really know the advancements we're making, or are we just kind of fumbling through it? And so I'm still worried about that game a little bit.
Yeah, I am hopeful because from what I have seen, they have taken the criticism and they're like truly working towards change.
I hope so.
So we'll see what happens. But yeah, so Mass Effect, you could have done so much better. And I'm hoping that over time you keep doing better.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that we're looking at these games which are older, and in the space, they were more progressive than other games, but it still doesn't mean that we have to forgive it now when looking back. But I do have faith that, as they have stated, the Mass Effect franchise is not dead, and there are plans for future Mass Effect something, that we will continue to get those advancements, you know. And I think it is important to be critical of what came before, but still acknowledge that there were some places where they were successful, but it could always be better.
Okay. Let's do a quick fandom corner.
Oh, before we move on, I do want to mention what the other question was, and that we'll get to it. It's that
I mean, I was just going to leave it.
You're just going to leave it?
Okay.
All right.
Well, yeah, because I don't want to spoil anything.
Okay. As long as you remember to bring it up like 10 episodes from now.
Yes, I have made notes about it. Hi, do you know who you host a podcast with?
I do. Yes, that's fair.
Okay. All right. Anyway, fandom corner. So I'm bringing to the table a fanfic that I found today. I was looking for anything that took place on the Citadel, since that is where we are. And I found a really cute one called The Only Pool on the Citadel. It is a decently sized story about Garrus and Shepard finding the only pool on the Citadel, playing a game of truth or dare, and discovering some drug smuggling in the process. It's a very cute, fun story. I highly recommend it. It's by Mice and Scene, MICEENSCENE, on Archive of Our Own. I'll drop the link on our Discord, and we'll share it on our other social media as well. So, cute story, fluff, pre-relationship. It's kind of the development of Garrus and Shepard's friendship. So, that's what I have for you today.
Thank you for bringing us something to Fandom Corner.
That's it. I also just want to read a little bit more of Nathan's email because it's the only email that we got. And he had something to say about the Vermeer survivor on Horizon.
Awesome. Okay.
Okay. Finally, I have some words in defense of the Vermeer survivor on Horizon from a recent Reddit post. I'm not asking for comment, but I see a lot of hate for the survivor over this moment, and I don't think it's entirely fair. Miranda straight says she could have and would have put a mind control chip in you. And you know from ME1 that Cerberus experiments with indoctrination. ED proves that they can make human-passing robots. In the Citadel DLC... can't read you that one.
Mm-hmm.
Don't read this email, Matt.
It will spoil it for me.
Can't. Never mind. Let's see. It may be hurtful that the survivor doesn't go with you, but you did just come back from death with a racist terrorist admiral assassinating mad science cabal. In a different story where the survivor believed Shepard and they turned out to be an imposter, everyone would think they were a gullible idiot who didn't know their friend. I feel like they're allowed to be angry and confused about the situation. Garrus and Tali, who have looser responsibilities and meet you under better circumstances. It seems unfair to me that in Mass Effect 3, the writers make the survivor grovel and apologize, but if I recall, you're never allowed to admit that their apprehension was valid, even when the thing happens from Citadel that Matt can't know about. Interested to hear your thoughts. Thanks for all the amazing shows. Nathan, I should have read your email more carefully. I was so excited to read it on air, but I forgot that Matt still hasn't played Citadel.
It's okay.
Matt, don't read this email.
I skimmed it, but I missed that bit, so it's a good thing I did.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right that the survivor definitely is valid in the way that they feel. I don't deny that at all. It's just, if you're trying to put yourself in the moment, it's difficult to remember that their feelings are valid. But yes, of course, Caden and Ashley are definitely allowed to feel the way that they feel, especially if they've been investigating Cerberus as a secret mission. So I am with you. I agree with you. And I think that we should be able to tell them your feelings were valid. I was upset because I was going through my own thing. And now, like, we both need to get past the things we were upset about because we need to work together.
Yeah, I also agree. I think that the Mass Effect, for a game with so much customization and that I still laud is one of my favorite series, when looking at what we have now and the way conversations can go now and just growing as human people, there are a lot more limitations than I realized. And again, that just comes with our own lived experiences too. And when you're designing a game like this, you may not think of that stuff because if it's not in your purview, it's sometimes hard to know. It doesn't forgive it, but it's a possible explanation. I think that again, I haven't played Andromeda, which I hear does even more. But I would love another Shepard-based Mass Effect game, or maybe a remaster where they give you more options. I mean, we are towards the tail end of this console generation, so I don't foresee us getting a Mass Effect trilogy, HD, re-release, remaster, whatever. But
it's
maybe,
all I ever want.
But maybe for the next gen, who knows? I would love that, and I would love more conversation options, more DLC, more customization options, more character creation options. And and it does sound like, based on what I've seen of BioWare, that they are thinking of those things. So we'll see. But I agree. Yeah. Mostly, I just wanted to hold Caden for a little while.
Aww.
But, we weren't allowed. So it is
I'm
what
sorry.
it is.
Well, maybe if they ever remaster it, they will make everybody romanceable and get off of whatever it is that's keeping them from doing so.
Yeah, right?
Okay. Anything else you want to talk about before we close up?
No, I don't think so. I think we covered everything. Again, this bit was a bit shorter, although it didn't stop us for talking for over an hour, so there you go. But,
We had a lot to say.
Yeah, that's true. But I am very excited about what we're doing next because the next episode we do is the Justicar, and it's our first interaction with another playable Asari character or a Asari character that you can recruit that's very different from other Asaris that we've seen up to this point. And so I think this mission is really exciting, and this character is exciting because they are very different from what we've interacted with in the past.
Yeah, I think that episode is going to run super long because we're also going to be talking about Ilium. Because It's our first time to Ilium. So we'll see what happens. Please bear with us. If you like what you heard here, follow us on social media. We are at ReignitePod on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram, facebook.com/reignitepod, or send us an email at reignitepod@gmail.com.
Of course, you can rate and review us on your favorite podcatcher. It helps us to get seen and featured and bring in more listeners to join the conversation. If you have the podcast app on the iPhone, it literally takes minutes to do it. So please do that.
We're members of the Certain Point of View network. Visit certainpov.com to find more nerdy podcasts, each with a unique point of view. You can also find a permanent link to our Discord server on the website, and you can join the conversation. Thank you to Christina Spinks for our latest It's Okay to Be a Marshmallow t-shirt on Redbubble, featuring our favorite marshmallow, Caden Alenko, despite what happened on Horizon. If you can find more of her work at Chaos Does Art on Instagram. We'd also like to thank David Boyle for designing our logo, which you can also get on a shirt through Redbubble, and Dan Bull for letting us use the Mass Effect rap for our theme music. I'm MJ.
And I'm Matt, aka Stormageddon.
We should go.
You're listening to Reignite, I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite podcast on the Citadel.
Hey Nerferders, my name is Case Aiken, and for over 2 years I've hosted my show, Another Pass, where I sit down with interesting guests to talk about movies that we find fascinating but flawed. Good movies, bad movies, doesn't matter. We find ways that they could have been improved. So if you ever thought that a sequel dropped the ball by forgetting about a plotline, that an epic could have been saved by introducing the director to an editor, or that a comedy didn't work hard enough to have some substance behind the laughs, then check out Another Pass podcast at certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts.